Welcome back, makers. I want to ask you a quick question. How many of you use a skirt or a purge line on your 3D printer? Now, before you answer that, how many of you have found one of these on your floor or back of your printer or somewhere else? I'm betting most of you, and I've got a better solution for these today, and that's what we're going to be doing on today's Makers Mashup. So here's my dilemma. Just like you, I used a skirt and a purge line for the longest time. The problem with these things, and I have a huge amount of them, they are constantly being thrown out and they are virtually everywhere. When I throw them in the trash, or I have a couple of boxes that I use in the shop here for recycling all of my prints, what happens is sooner or later, one of them or a lot of them end up popping out, end up on the back of the printer, or end up on the floor. And it's really just very annoying to have them everywhere. My wife has even found where I've walked upstairs and had one of these on my shoe and found them in the living room or some other place. I hate them. They're great for purging your nozzle, and it does an okay job of doing that and priming it and getting ready for print. But outside of that, I find these a real huge annoyance. So what I've done is actually created a GCode startup routine that you can customize yourself online, and I've got a link to it down in the description. So today we're going to be covering a way that we'll be creating what I call a landing strip and kisses on your printer, which will enable you to be able to print something that primes your nozzle, clears it out, gets it ready for printing, does some retractions, and wipes that nozzle before starting your print. So when you start your print, it starts off clean and you don't have to use any of these very annoying skirts. So with all that said, let's get to work. Here we see the landing strip and kisses in action. Right before the print starts, I extrude one of these kisses, which look like the chocolate treat. And then after extruding, it does a wipe on the tape. And then from there begins our 3D print. So how did we make all this happen? On the tools page of the Layer Fused website, you'll see a number of different calibration and 3D printer tools. And if we navigate down to the bottom of this, you will see that there is a new edition of the startup GCode generator. This generator works pretty simply. It will generate the startup script for your 3D printer. We'll start by specifying the size of our 3D printer. In my case, I'm using an X301, so the bed size is 300 by 300. The tool uses this for sanity checking, so please take the time to fill this out because it will prevent you from making some simple mistakes within the tool. Once you've selected your bed size, the rest comes down to simply making a couple of choices on the options here and then copying the code from the bottom, startup code, into Cura or your particular slicer. Simply locate the startup G code in your favorite slicer. So let's talk about a few of these options. The Z Auto Align will execute a G34. So if you have a Z that is powered independently, Marlin can automatically level your bed to some degree with a probe. And then we also have G29, which enables bed leveling. The Kiss Purge parameters are pretty simple. It does take up a 15 by 40 area on your bed for the tape, or as I like to call it, the landing strip. And then you simply set the position. In my case, I set it at 200 on the x-axis and 0 for the starting position of the y-axis, which puts it in the right front corner of my bed. You can also configure the retraction for a direct drive, something like 1 millimeter, or for the X301, 0.7 works really well. And then you'll finally configure the distance from the bed. Now, The distance from the bed is really the thickness of the piece of paper or whatever you use to determine the distance from the nozzle, physical nozzle, to the physical bed. That air gap is usually considered 0, but what happens here is the software end stops are turned off, and then we lower the nozzle to the actual bed level, or in this particular case, it touches the tape. And then once it touches the tape, it performs that wipe. It does turn the software end stops back on at the end of the process. Now, another option you can add here is audio feedback, and I did a separate video on this on how you can use M300 to generate sounds with your 3D printer. So I'm going to enable it here, and there's a card at the top that will show you a little bit more information on how you can use audio feedback on your 3D printer for various operations. Once we have all of our configurations complete, all we'll have to do is select all the code here, and then we'll copy this into our clipboard for our slicer. Here we are inside of Cura, and we're going to go up to our printer settings, and we'll go to printer, and then we'll manage our printers, and you can see here I've got my X301 already selected. We're going to go in here to the machine settings, and you'll see the start code right here inside Cura, and all we'll have to do is delete this out and then paste in the new code from the website. We just need to click close, and we're ready to go. So let's give this a try and start a print. Overall, I would say that these kisses have worked really well for me over the last 6 or 9 months that I've been using them. And I wanted to create a video to share with you the different startup process that I have compared to many 3D printer owners. And I know that when I started 3D printing, I used a purge line because there was really no tool available that I knew of at the time to be able to create my own startup script in an easy fashion. And I'm hoping this tool is useful for you if you're using Marlin firmware. RepRap should work as well. You probably won't be able to use this with Clipper, but it is a good tool if you are a Marlin or RepRap user. Now, one of the other things that I hated about these skirts overall is that they do tend to curl up from time to time because they don't get bed adhesion. And if you don't catch it, I've had some cause print failures. I'm sure you have as well. So another reason to not use these. Now, some of you may be concerned about giving up a little bit of real estate on your bed. The tape is a bit optional. However, I like using the tape as the landing strip because the nice thing is I'm able to pull it off and it does go down a little bit below the 0 on your Z. So there is a possibility of scratching your bed if you configure this incorrectly. However, 0.1 is usually just fine and the piece of tape works really well. Plus, you can always pull the tape off after, or the kiss off after your print is started, and it's easy to get at. Anyone who's ever tried to pull a skirt off of their print midstream knows the process. You have to go in there and either cut it and pull it up, break it apart, and then pull it around the print. KISS is easy to pull off the front of the printer if you needed the extra real estate. Let me know what your thoughts are of the GCode generator and also of this KISS process down in the comments below. And if you need help with this or anything else, feel free to check out our channel Discord. Inside the channel Discord, it's completely free and it's a huge makerspace of thousands of makers all working together to help each other with their projects. So with that, I want to say thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.